How are you? I'm okay. There was a mistake. I hope you picked up.
Yeah.
Did you edit it? What came from me?
We picked it up on the, yes.
Refuse to act. Choosing.
We corrected it. He picked it up.
You
We're
did?
very true now in the car. But it isn't edited.
Okay.
Yes.
How are you?
This one thing.
Can we talk about your camera at the end of this press conference?
Say again?
Can we talk about your camera at the end of the press conference? Okay. SAFTU is a startup organization with the need for resources. Yeah.
I must say.
Are you expropriating?
Expropriation without any compensation.
I think you need. Have you already dished out the media statements?
You need one?
Have you distributed already?
I've distributed to the media.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Cheers, you need one?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Let's try again. Good morning, everybody.
Are we ready to commence with the media conference? Is everybody ready? Okay. But I think we should start off by apologizing for having arrived late. We got held up in an accident, and as a result of that, we couldn't then arrive here on time, and we sincerely apologize for that. Without much further ado, we would then commence with the media statement. It reads as follows. NTMs. Okay, I'm Ephraim Patlele, the General Secretary of NTM, or the National Transport Movement.
I am Zwelinze Mavavi, General Secretary of SAFTU.
I'm Eleanor Solomon, President of the National Transport Movement.
Patrick Manamela, the Gauteng Chairperson of NTM.
I'm Craig Mte. I'm the Deputy General Secretary for the National Transport Movement.
I'm Katleho Sibuku, the spokesperson of NTM, National Transport Movement.
Yeah, thank you very much. The statement reads as follows. The National Transport Movement and the South African Federation of Trade Unions, SAFTU, are extremely perturbed by the failures on the part of the Hawks and the NPA to act on allegations of corruption committed in the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, which amounts to billions of rands of public funds. The Prasa board is reportedly investigating 142 contracts worth 24 billion rands for possible corruption. Yet the Transport Minister, Joe Maswanganya, has now written to its members terminating their membership, which is clearly a political maneuver to not only to frustrate, but to stop the board from holding those corrupt accountable. The so-called independent police agent established to fight corruption has frustrated the board in its attempt to get those responsible to face full might of the law by just refusing to act, notwithstanding the mounting evidence in its possession. The National Transport Movement wish to remind the public that many of these contracts were first questioned by the then president of the South African Transport and Allied Workers Union, SAFTU, Ephraim Patlele, who blew the whistle on corruption when many were not aware of the extent of pillaging now being exposed by the Gupta leaks. SAFTU opened a criminal case against Lucky Montana and his accomplices in March 2012. Up to date, the police have refused to act, choosing to send the union from pillar to post. The now deported SAFTU General Secretary Zenzo Mahlangu, who was allegedly heavily implicated in this corruption, together with his former Deputy General Secretary Nicholas Mazia, purged everyone opposing corruption inside the union and in Prasa, and used employers to get rid of those exposing corruption and all of the whistleblowers. To this extent, they had actually dismissed 700 employees for no reason at all. Prasa shop stewards and the then SAFTU president Ephraim Patlele himself were targeted through persecutions, dismissals, and suspensions by the employers and the union itself. SAFTU also dropped charges against Prasa, and the Hawks failed to act on the case. This led to the formation of NTM, which broke away from SAFTU in 2012. Since then, we have been combating maladministration and corruption at Prasa and have reported these corruption allegations to the Public Protector's Office. NTM also laid criminal charges at Hillbrook Police Station against former Prasa Chief Executive Officer Lucky Montana in 2015 to press for repayment of money allegedly misappropriated during his tenure as the group CEO. COSATU was informed about this by Comrade Mpahlele, but unfortunately this happened at the time when the crisis of divisions within COSATU was developing. Zwelinzima Vavi, who was against this corruption, became instant enemy of both SAFTU national office bearers and other office bearers in COSATU after he handed over the files received from Ephraim Patlele and Prasa shop stewards to them. These files showed the link between the paralysis of SAFTU and COSATU, as well as the growing corruption of some of their leaders. The Public Protector then published a report containing 35 allegations of irregular or improper awarding of contracts without following proper procurement processes. NTM wrote to the Prasa board urging the executives to take action against the present and former employees implicated in the wasteful expenditure cited in Tulima Tonsela's findings. The NTM also impressed on the Prasa board the importance of not only suspending but nullifying the irregular tenders awarded to Montana's tenure in order to send a strong message that corruption cannot be condoned and or tolerated. We are still shocked by the fact that these charges have not been followed up by the police and the courts. The previous minister, Dipuo Peters, tried desperately to stop the investigations into the charges by illegally dissolving the board earlier this year, but was overruled by the North Gauteng High Court, which declared that her decision was irrational and unlawful, and that particular decision is accordingly set aside. President Zuma then appointed Prasa Chairman Sfiso Buthelezi to be a Deputy Minister of Finance, despite the fact that he was implicated in the Public Protector's report on corrupt activities in Prasa, of which he was the board chairman at the time. The alleged corrupt activities were happening under his leadership. And we believe that President Zuma was actually rewarding Sfiso Buthelezi for having allowed corruption to be the order of the day in Prasa, instead of making sure that he gets to be arrested and brought to book in respect of the corruption activities that took place in Prasa. The current Minister of Transport, Joe Maswanganye, is also currently in a mysterious way seeking to dissolve the current board of directors in order to stop forensic investigation from continuing and uncovering more corporate fraud over and above the embarrassing corporate fraud already uncovered thus far. The whole procurement of the new trains by Prasa, for instance, is also riddled with corruption. The value of corruption in Prasa by far exceeds the arms deal corruption and should therefore not be left unchallenged. The minister has written to the board chairperson, Popo Molefe, saying he wants to dissolve the board and give giving them 7 days to provide reasons as to why he should allow them to continue as members of the board in Prasa, even though Molefe and the current board are left with just more than 5 weeks in office before their tenure ends. This shows eagerness and desperation on their part in order to try and disrupt the investigation processes and accordingly paper over the corrupt activities that had actually been carried out in Prasa. Molefe claims that they don't want to, in fact, he's claiming that they don't want to deal with major corruption offenses. He's actually claiming that the current Minister of Transport is not intending to deal with major criminal offenses. And it is for that reason that he is then intending to dissolve the board. We have given them forensic capacity that they can analyze the information, and we want them to tell us as to what they have done about the information that we have given them. This is a disparate political shenanigans on the part of the Zuma regime to frustrate the investigations and cover up corruption. We are concerned that the former and the new ministers want to get rid of Prasa board for the sole purpose of covering up acts of corruption exposed by both the public protector's report, Prasa board's investigation, and now the Gupta leaks. We believe that this corrupt regime should have acted in order to send out a message to the public that corruption shall not be tolerated in this country. It is difficult to ignore the fact that those who are implicated seem to enjoy cover with changing goalposts as they are politically connected to the regime and the ruling party, and they are doing everything in their powers in order to protect them. There is no way that one can talk about corruption activities at Prasa and exclude NTM, as NTM is at the center of anti-corruption campaign at Prasa. In fact, NTM is the main complainant in this matter. The allegations were raised at the Office of the Public Protector. The allegations raised at the Office of the Public Protector by NTM were accurate. We are, however, appalled by the inordinate delay on the part of the Hawks and the NPA in terms of their respective failures to arrest the culprits and bring them to book. NTM and SAFTU are demanding that the board must be allowed to finish its work, and that the Hawks and the NPA, who appear to be politically captured by the corrupt regime, must urgently arrest and bring to culprits all those who are implicated in corruption in Prasa. Should they fail to do so, NTM and SAFTU will embark on a sustained mass action until justice is done on these matters. We also demand that the citizenship accorded to the Gupta family must be rescinded as it had been awarded in an unlawful manner. And we demand that they be deported back to their country of origin, because they have actually brought too much political embarrassment to the country, including the regime. The president, we are also calling for the president of the country, Jacob Zuma, to resign, along with the Minister of Transport, Joe Maswanganye, and his deputy minister, and the deputy minister of Finance, Mr. Sifiso Buthelezi. And we also demand that workers and members of civil society must also be appointed to serve in the new Prasa board in order to guard against corruption and make sure that no stone is left unturned in relation to the corruption activities that had been the order of the day in Prasa. Thank you very much. I think we can now then allow the media houses to pose questions. We will then take turns in responding to those questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, also can now ask questions.
Why are you smiling and not asking questions?
Hello? Yes, you should have please identify yourself.
All right. My name is Kaito Mahlakwana. I write for Business Day. The first thing that I'd like to find out from you is you emphasize the importance of the Prasa board, the current Prasa board. You seem to somehow even knight them as the saviors of Prasa in its current stature. Are you suggesting no one else is able to raise the issues that they have raised? And since you yourself say you have dossiers on the corruption that goes on there, is it not sufficient that there should be those parties, civil society such as yourselves, who pursue the Prasa matter outside of the current board? Because you create an impression as though they are the only ones who can sort out the issues there. You also mentioned an anti-corruption campaign that you've been carrying out within Prasa. What is this campaign? What are its activities? What have you been doing? And what do you mean by campaign? And how much is there of that is effective? You threaten mass action. How many members do you have in Prasa? And you threaten that collectively with SAFTU. How many members do both organizations have within Prasa to be able to effect a mass action of any kind? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to take the three questions for the first round. The second one, before the GS could respond on that. There's a question.
Samkelo Masego from Jacaranda FM. You mentioned the former Deputy General Secretary and the current General Secretary of SAFTU, Zenzo Nomazi. What proof do you have that they are involved in this corruption at Prasa, and can you provide any tangible evidence, such as a dossier, for all that you are saying right now? Thank you.
Is that all? Okay, thank you very much. The first question from Business Day. We are not saying that the current board of directors in Prasa is the only board that can be able to sort issues out in Prasa. But at least they have demonstrated corporate willingness to investigate corruption and act on it. In fact, they have even gone to the extent of opening criminal cases in that regard. The previous board had done virtually nothing about that corruption, despite the fact that that corruption was actually happening under their respective noses. Now, with regard to the number of members that we have in Prasa, NTM has got 10,000 members in Prasa as we speak currently. And of course, SAFTU has got about 700,000 members as we speak currently. Now, the question from Jacaranda, the proof that we have in respect of the corruption activities on the part of, you should allow me to then say the then General Secretary of SAFTU, because he had been deported to his country of origin. He cannot then become a General Secretary of a trade union that is registered and operating in the Republic of South Africa. Well, he is in his country of origin, Zimbabwe. We do have a proof. Prasa, under the corporate leadership of Lucky Montana and Fiso Telesi, they have actually awarded a company that belongs to Zenzo Mashangu and Mazia a tender in Prasa in respect of the train, the issuance of the train tickets, the ticketing system.
Maybe just to add to that, GS, the proof of what you are seeking can be found in the initial dossier that we had handed to the public protector. It can also be found in the report that was issued by the public protector. There's also further information that is investigated by Prasa's board. They are using Werksman's attorneys to do that investigation. They had already uncovered a number of the corruption that has been taking place other than what has been mentioned in the report of the public protector. As the National Transport Movement, we also further uncovered other corruption which relates to Prasa's security tenders. We had also uncovered other corruption relating to Autopex and the diesel contract. Now, the security tender that we are referring to is to the value of 5 billion rand, and the complaint is already with the Office of the Public Protector. In relation to Autopex, that diesel contract amounts to 500 million rand. This is not small money. We believe that proper investigations needs to be done by the Public Protector. We have been engaging with their office, but they also seem to be dragging their feet like the hawks. So we are going to continue to put pressure on them so that we can get these investigations done and bring them to the close in terms of getting those that is involved in the corruption to make sure that they are prosecuted and that all the state money that they've misused is recovered. So that information is available. We can share it with you if ever you need anything from us. Thank you.
Second round of questions? Yes, sir?
From the eNCA. If you don't mind, Mr. Mphahlele, I'd like to get your comment on the goings on across town at SAFTU. You know, having spent time there in the leadership. What do you recall of the rise of Mr. Zenzo Mahlangu? How did it come about in your recollection? Was it normal? Did it follow the normal patterns, or was there something unusual about it? And also, what have you made about what have you made of the controversies now surrounding him, the whole issue around his citizenship, and also, you know, the fears that are being expressed by people in that leadership, that, you know, the leadership is not beyond using even murder to silence anyone who asks questions?
Second question?
Yes, Samgera from Jakarta. Can I just let jump to my colleague's question? Mr. Mphahlele, in your times at SAFTU, and especially during the time of 2015 when the former General Secretary or Provincial Secretary in Gauteng, Chris Nkosi, was killed, what did you make of those happenings at SAFTU, and what actually led to what we are seeing today, which is the demise of SAFTU, with Mazia having been eliminated as the Deputy General Secretary without SAFTU having gone to a conference? What is actually happening in that unit? Thank you.
I just wanted to ask around the current investigation, preliminary investigation by the public protector, and accusations that she might be selective in her investigation. I'd like to hear your direct opinion on that as the NTM, as well as if you think she will fulfill the mandate going forward.
Thank you. Yes, we'll respond as soon as he's ready.
Okay, thank you very much. With regard to the rise of Zenzo Mahlangu in SAFTU, his political rise in SAFTU was actually suspicious, to say the least. But then, because the corruption web in SAFTU, it was actually so deep-rooted. The corrupt have actually catapulted him into the General Secretary's position in order for him to then continue with the corruption in the union. In fact, they have looted the financial resources in that union. Now that union is even unable to attend important meetings. Recently, they could not even attend a COSATU Central Committee as a result of the financial resources of the union having been completely looted. Now, with regard to his citizenship, there had always been a cloud over his citizenship, but at the time when I was still a president of SAFTU, I actually set out to investigate that particular matter. And as a result of that, they began to then target me. They even went to the extent of hiring assassins to take me out. And that's the reason why I ultimately then had to tender resignation and left that union. Now, with regard to the matter of Chris Ngosi, he used to be an ally of Zenzo Mahlangu, and they then had differences, and as a result of the differences that they had, they were no longer in good terms, but ultimately, Chris Ngosi ended up being assassinated. It is unfortunate that the SAPS had not as yet then arrested the culprits. But of course, it is our well-considered view that his assassination was a political assassination orchestrated within SAFTU itself. And the police have got to do their work in that regard. It is unfortunate when, in fact, when Chris Ngosi's matter happened, I had already left SAFTU. I was already the General Secretary of NTM at that time. And had I remained in SAFTU, I would have investigated that particular matter and made sure that the culprits were brought to book in order for them to face the full might of the law. That much I would have done without any fear and or hesitation. Now, with regard to the public protector being selective in relation to the investigations that she's conducting, we believe that the current public protector is captured by the regime, and it is for that reason that she is selective in investigating certain matters. And in respect of the certain matters that can actually embarrass the regime, she is actually either delaying to investigate or not investigating at all. And we are extremely concerned with regard to the manner in which she is going about her business. We believe that she is out of order. She has got to carry out her constitutional obligations of investigating without a favor and or fear. We, as NTM, we have actually laid the charges against Lucky Montana in respect of corruption, including his accomplices in Prasa, on the 28th of August 2015. To date, there had been no arrest that had been effected. We are actually being misled by the Hawks, including the so-called investigating officers, that they are making progress, but they are not arresting anybody, despite the fact that billions and billions of the public funds have actually been corruptly siphoned out of Prasa, and nothing is actually been done about that.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I wanted the Deputy General Secretary to just, I want him to release more information about this particular charge they laid at the Hillbrow police station against Lucky Mundana, and how police have simply frustrated that investigation up to this moment. Because I just want you to take note of that before I make my comment on the matter.
Okay, maybe even before the Deputy General Secretary comes in, I should give the media houses the case number.
Okay.
The case number is 939/08/2015. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think maybe a point of departure is we need to mention that when we initially opened the corruption case at the Hawks in 2012, the Hawks provided us with a bogus case number. Now, what is also alarming about the actions of the Hawks, I personally was arrested by the very same Hawks for actually reporting on the corruption within Prasa. Now, it is clear that the Hawks can arrest, but they choose who they want to arrest. When we opened the case in 2015, August, we had insisted that the police gives us a printout from their computer as evidence, which we've got today, that they had given us a proper case number, because at that point in time, we had no trust in the Hawks. The last time the Hawks communicated with us, it has been said by them that they are engaging with the complainants around this corruption case. But the last communication we had from them was on the 12th of November of last year. And the numbers that they gave us that we should call, when you phone there, there's no answer to the telephone. Before that engagement, there's been a number of different investigating officers that have been appointed to deal with this matter. And every time we are noting that the rank of that person is declining. Initially, it was a general that dealt with the docket. Then they transferred it to a colonel. Now we're at the level of a captain. And with the availability of resources allocated to that captain, surely we can expect that nothing will come out of the investigation. But that is how the Hawks these days choose to deal with matters. But their actions are criminal, because the South African Police Act is a mandate for them. It's a legal mandate for them to act on any criminal activity when it is reported to them. Now, this investigation basically, from where we are sitting, is more than 5 years old, and they've not moved with anything. Thank you.
I wanted that information to be related to you, because I want to make the obvious point out of this particular case that NTM is referring to. And the point is that the state as a whole, not just Jacob Zuma, not just Malusi Kigaba, Sfiso Buthelezi, Zwane, and few others. The state as a whole at this moment has been hollowed out, have been completely domesticated, and have been stolen from the hands of the people of South Africa. A coup have already taken place in South Africa, and the coup have been engineered systematically by the elites led by President Jacob Zuma, and a coup against the very constitution of the Republic and against the people of this country as a whole. Just make an example of what we're talking about, or let's make this as an example. These leaders, whilst they were in the SAFTU, insisted against the will of the majority in the national office bearers of SAFTU at that time that they must go and lay a charge of corruption against the then group CEO of Prasa, Mr. Lucky Mundana. And for that, they suffered, they were kicked out of the union. But even when they were now outside the union, they laid another charge of corruption in August of 2015. You just heard of how the case has simply been frustrated and the police simply refused to take action against those that are alleged to be involved in siphoning of the billions of rands from Prasa into their pockets. They've just refused. They won't act. Here's evidence. In fact, this evidence was handed over by me, amongst others, including Mphahlele sitting next to me, to the Office of the Public Protector, and it was the basis of that information that led to the Public Protector issuing the report that the state has up to so far refused to act on. 13 recommendations that have been put on the side and completely sidelined by this corrupt government. The point that we're making is, increasingly, unfortunately, for anybody who have evidence in South Africa against the top dogs, the running dogs of corruption and state capture, the Hawks will not be the place to go to. Even when this current board of Prasa goes to the High Court to say to court, but these fellows in Hawks have a constitutional responsibility to act against corruption, they are refusing to act. Hawks will just not do their job because they want to protect those that are responsible for stealing and for pillaging the past that belongs to the people of this country as a whole. 2, instead of this government protecting and giving power and more resources to Prasa board to investigate and or to urge the Hawks to act against those that are corrupt, because there is now evidence that have been provided, because the Prasa board initiated a process that involved a legal firm to investigate. Hawks will just not act. Senior managers of the police will just not act. The president will not act. The Minister of Transport will just victimize those that are blowing the whistle and or who are demanding that action be taken against the corrupt. Even when the public protector have made remedial, not proposals, remedial actions, ignored. We must have a new board, even though this board is left only with 5 weeks before the end of its term. You can see what is clearly happening. The NPA will not act because the NPA itself has been domesticated, have been hollowed out, and the teeth have been taken out throughout, and it is left with nothing except soft gums. It can no longer bite against any kind of corruption that is happening in the country. This is the biggest threat to South Africa's democracy today. Forget about anything else. President Zuma and all of the people who have been taking collective responsibility every time he finds himself on the wrong side of the law and moral bar are responsible for this mess. They have allowed things to fall to this level that the unions, the board can do whatever they can do, supplemented by hard evidence, as we have here, of corruption. But all of those will be frustrated by the state that now serve the interest of President Zuma, his corrupt colleagues inside the ANC and the alliance as a whole, and as well as the corrupt colleagues that are serving the state in various capacities, be in the police, hawks, or even in the prosecuting authority. This is a tragedy for South Africa. And for as long as South Africa let all of these moments to pass by just doing few tweets and half-hearted demonstrations against this state capture, the more these forces of darkness will feel emboldened, the more they will grow more confident to continue to pillage and to steal. They're no longer stealing, by the way, they are taking now. The stealing is when you think that you can grab something without you being seen or being held accountable. What is happening in Prasa is no longer stealing. I mean, this is broad daylight robbery, and it's beyond pickpocketing. I mean, for these guys to be allowed to bring in trains in a big hurry, 25 billion rand spent, and the trains can't go through any bridge. They can't go to Park Station, the trains that these guys brought. The trains can't pass one another like this in their train station. There will be a major catastrophe of an accident. Huge trains. Nobody checked any specs because the issue was never about delivery of public transport system to South Africa. The issue was always what is the opportunity for a tender that will eventually go down the pockets, the deep pockets of those that are involved with the tender processes. This is the tragedy, and that's why we felt that we must just bring it to your attention that no, don't listen to the board only. Listen to the NTM, the union that has been in the cold front of these allegations from the beginning, and see the tragedy unfolding in front of our own eyes, where a government simply refuses to act in a manner that will protect the Constitution, the whistleblowers, and basically allows people to be murdered. There will never be any arrest of Chris Ngosi's murderers because the police itself have been captured. And so if any of us get killed, we know it from now, the police will issue statements. We will arrest those responsible immediately. Botswana's killers have been at least put into trial in Northwest, but the questions about whether the real engineers of that kill or that hit are on trial or they are sitting outside allowing some other junior people who may have pulled the trigger to face the music. This is the state of affairs. People are being killed left, right, and center in KwaZulu-Natal, in Mpumalanga, for being whistleblowers. Very few, if any, people are being held accountable in our courts. This is the state of affairs in the Republic of South Africa 23 years after our democracy. A coup is not taking place. A coup has actually taken place already. We have a kleptocratic state in charge, a predatory state already in place. This is no longer a theory. And when such things happen as the order, you must know that we have arrived. When kleptocracy arrives, it doesn't like a dictatorship. You won't see some drum majorates coming down the streets announcing that kleptocracy have now arrived. But we are in it now. We are in it. And that's why Sfiso Buthelezi, Malusi Gigaba, Atul Gupta, Ajay Gupta, all of those that are being mentioned in those leaks have absolutely nothing to fear, because the state belongs to them. It has been captured. And the capture has already taken place. These people fear nothing. There will be more emails in the future. They don't care as long as they have captured the very same ANC. It can do nothing except to take collective responsibility when all of these things are happening. The very same people who are now running around out of the sinking Zuma ship like rats were the ones who were propping that up when this guy was being chased out like a dog from Satao, and all of them. They were there. They were singing that they must go. All of the people who are now recovering their moral compass few months before the ANC conference, they were there. When 700 shop stewards and members of Prasa belonging to Satao were being victimized by management on the basis that it is they who were suspected to be providing this information, COSATU was there. It sang praise to the fact that these people must be chased out, including all of those that were also blowing the whistle there next door in Samu. By the way, 3 workers were shot here and 1 killed. No one has been arrested. I mean, where have you seen a state operating like that? Broad, 12 o'clock midday, 3 workers get killed by the what they call these guys that they hire and put them in the door. Not body, the bouncers. No one arrested. I mean, this thing happens all the time. When we want, we can have a press conference all the time. Last week, by the way, you may have escaped this. The SAMU so-called financial advisor was appearing in court for stealing 176 million rands of member subscriptions. 176. And the former General Secretary is now a state witness. The police are saying, at least in that case, they are resuscitating a case against the Deputy General Secretary of that union, which they've initially dropped. We're not talking about sense here. So when these people are prepared to dismantle COSATU, it's because they too have something to benefit from the chaos of the state that we're witnessing every day. They are part and parcel of the gang of thugs that are responsible for the hijacking of the entire democratic project of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think maybe we will be left with the last, if not the second last round of questions.
Oh, I thought we done.
If you still have time on our side. But I will be taking 3 questions as well. I'll start with you.
Is there any hope that this money will ever be recovered, this 24 billion rand, even if the perpetrators are brought to book? Do you want them to actually pay back the money?
How I wish that there was something really called follow the money in South Africa. My own criticism of the public protector is that she didn't follow that 246 million. She just said the money has been stolen. But I would have thought that the public protector can employ investigators and forensic capacity, or employ forensic capacity to chase every cent of that 246 million. And I think we will be surprised to check where that money landed. Same like these billions. Surely there is capacity in South Africa to chase what happened to the 24 billions that is being alleged to have been stolen in Prasa. But in South Africa, we don't care. I mean, we just say, okay, some people have been arrested, some persons have been demoted, such as we foolishly celebrated the statements from the government that the person allegedly responsible for allowing Guptas to land at Waterkloof was demoted, we were told. And the demotion in South Africa happens this way. It's like when you're spinning a 2 cent, it goes up. And so the fellow was demoted from the head of government protocol to the ambassador in the Netherlands. And he now appears in the Gupta leaks as one of the people responsible for this web that is being exposed by the media, left, right, and center. By the way, thank you very much to all of you for doing that work. It's a pity that South Africans are now punch drunk. Anywhere else in the world, such information coming to the fore, there will be millions of people demanding the resignation of that government the next day. But in South Africa, we are tired. We punch drunk. What is worse than everything that we have gone through already? People are tired. They are resigning. 21 million of people did not participate in the elections last year. They are tired, and which is a very, very dangerous sign for any democracy, because that's where the power of the elites is derived from, when ordinary people simply get tired and they feel that we've marched and marched. These guys are far too powerful. Let's make a call. We're making a call that starting from the 246 million rands pillaged in the Nkandla project, right up to all of that is now being exposed in the Prasa investigations and other investigations elsewhere, including the 176 million rands that have been pillaged from the SAMU funds, and the 34 million rands, which is at the center of getting people dismissed in SAFTU, which was alleged to have gone to build a building, and yet the union is on a bond with the bank. All of those monies must be followed up. And we think that once we follow the money, we will really see who are the main beneficiaries of this wreckaging of the country today.
Just a final one from me. Speaking of following the money, the public protector has just released a report on the CX investigation and the whole Bangkok lifeboat from the apartheid years, and the finding is that it was an illegal gift to ABSA and Bangkok, and one of the things she's recommending is that mechanisms be put in place to recover 1.1 billion rand of that money. Your reaction to that?
Well, we assume that despite our misgivings about this public protector, by the way, let's assume that this is it. That's the money, 1.1 billion rands that have been stolen during the dark days of apartheid by ABSA. We demand the same thing. Follow the money. Where is that 1.1 billion? Put the people in prison. Get the people in jail and let them go there in the same cells. All of the state capturers, be they white or black, be they having the ANC colors or the DA colors, it doesn't matter. Stealing and stealing, corruption is corruption. Let them share the same cell with Jacob Zuma and with others that are clearly responsible for pillaging of the purse of South Africa. They are all thieves. And SAFTU will have to look at that report that have just been released by the public protector. We've got to do something, just like we've got to do something about this. We do not see corruption as having eyes, unlike the others elsewhere who act in the most unprincipled way when they're talking about corruption. To us, corruption is corruption, whether it is by Zuma or the white monopoly capital or by ABSA thugs or anyone who is responsible from stealing must face the full might of the law, even though in South Africa, as we were just saying, quite clearly we have nowhere to run to. Our state has been stolen by the thieves themselves. They are now in charge of the state itself. So they will do all of these selective prosecutions against the political enemies as they wish, not against themselves. And that's why President Jacob Zuma today is trying to investigate himself, or to set up a commission that will investigate themselves. He is in charge. I mean, there is no more any other moral consideration there. The bar have been removed altogether. There's nothing to jump. And only here can you get somebody saying, I want investigations of myself by myself and no one else. I mean, I think we have landed close to a very, something called banana republic, where such things are allowed to happen on the basis that technically the Constitution gives him the powers to appoint investigation. When these people drafting the Constitution, by the way, they never ever thought that there will be Jacob Zuma as a president. The Constitution was designed that there will always be a moral, upright leader such as Nelson Mandela in the reins of the state. Never ever did they think that at some point you may need to investigate the head of state himself. Oh, unbelievable how we have landed in 23 years. We need a commission of inquiry to investigate the nefarious activities of our own head of state. And so let investigation on the ABSA thing, and let those who are being accused, by the way, go and defend themselves in court. For us, we will go out there in the streets to demand justice. And but we will not join those who, I'm sure by tomorrow, the Youth League of the current leadership will jump and say we are marching to ABSA. But they won't march against Lucky Mundana and Prasa, or they won't question Maswangai as to why he wants to remove a board that is doing an investigation against their friends. Because all of them, they are beneficiaries. By the way, do you remember that SAFTU held a picket, and the Youth League, including COSAS, held a march to demand the reinstatement of Lucky Mundana, and basically to say hands off him so that he may not answer against any of these allegations. That's when we talk about, when we talk about the total capture, domestication, not just of the state, but of the organs of the people's power themselves. We mean that. The stealing of COSATU, of the Youth League, of the Women's League, and let's face it, of the ANC itself by the thugs, is now playing itself out there for everybody to see. And that's the tragedy that have unfolded in our country in its first 23 years of democracy.
Any question?
I just have one last question. You mentioned Lucky Montana by name in the statement and in all your other reports, but the collective seems to be culprits. Can you just go through who else at Prasa is implicated by all these things you mentioned, by name and their titles?
That basically would be the whole executive of Prasa, under the watch of the former chairperson of the board, Sifiso Buthelezi. So their names are also in the report titled Derailed. Their names are in the report. It's a public document, so you can view the document at any time.
There's mention of current and former, so I see some argument within Prasa.
They are still there. That is why we're asking that they be placed on suspension, that they be arrested, because they are allowed to continue to perpetrate their craft in Prasa. Maybe I should also add, before we close, it was during the time of the killing of Chris Nkosi, a firearm had also mysteriously disappeared from the firearm safes of Prasa at Brakpan. And it is very suspicious that the firearm, after the killing, it just happened to resurface back into the safe at Prasa Brakpan depot. This information is available, Prasa knows it, but of course they can't investigate themselves. That is the job of the police. And the police are failing us. These matters are serious. We can't have people just going around thinking that it's okay. They can just kill whoever they want and they can get away with it. So every little detail of any serious criminal activity is supposed to be followed up by the police and the NPA, and they are not doing anything about it.
Maybe finally, we need to also bring to the attention of the media houses the fact that Prasa had been accusing NTM of banning trains in early 2013. But then they are now exposing themselves. They're exposing one another now. They are now suing each other in court. They are now claiming in those court papers that one of their senior protection services or security managers is the one who was behind the banning of trains during the NTM strike. These are some of the things that the corrupt people do in order to try and paint a trade union that is actually exposing corruption with a black paint. We do have that particular information, Comrade Nobala. We can share it with the media houses, but it is a matter that is still before the courts. But we do have that particular information in our possession as we speak currently.
But I think it's important also to add that this particular head of security of Prasa is also embroiled in an investigation that seeks to find whether he is also naturalized as a South African or whether he's a South African. That information is available, and we will also be able to share that with you. So it's the same similar situation as what you've seen in SAFTU, where basically foreign nationals are appointed to run important institutions in South Africa. But that kind of situation, we'll never see it in other countries. There's no South African that can leave South Africa and go and run an important institution like Prasa in Zimbabwe, let alone a security department. So these are the serious issues that we are dealing with as a country. And these things need to be dealt with. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You said it. You nailed it. I go through of your calls. They were discussing the charges. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. This is your call. The last time.
Record the audio.